ekam aksharam hridhi nirantaram bhasati swayam likyate hridaya kuhara madhye kevalam matram yaham iti sakshat atmarupena bhati hridhi vishamanasa swam Chimvata Majjata Avana Chalanaro Atmanishto Deham Brahmayavat Jadatmakam Aham Buddhanatasyasyata Aham Tattata Bhava Shukti Samay Siddha Masadha Oham Bhavayuta Kuto Radhiya Drishtatmanishtatmana Soham Spurtitaya Arunachala Shivaha Purno Vibhati Swayam Soham Spurtitaya Arunachala Shivaha Purno Vibhati Swayam. Namo Ramana. With Bhagavan's immense grace, we have been meditating on the verses of Anma bodham with special reference to Bhagavan's Tamil translation of the Atma Bodha, which is in Sanskrit by Adi Shankara. We have finding ourselves in verses 15 and 16, having covered the Sharira Trayam as the end point of discussion about world, that indirectly indicating that a Sharira is necessary for the perception of the world, and the three Shariras, the Stula, Sukshma and Karana, were discussed as to their content, as to how Panchikarana of the Panchabhutas are done and the Stula Sharira is brought about, how Apanchikrita in their original form itself the combination of what is in the Sukshma Swarupa and in the unmixed form, Apanchikrita Panchabhuta, the Sukshma Sharira is made, and the Karana Sharira is, of course, the Ajnana, and the Atma is beyond all these three, was how the three verses were completed, and we had looked at them as one segment in the last section. Similarly, we are going to see how the Sharira Traya can also be looked at as Panchakosha, the same three Shariras of Stula, Sukshma and Karana can also be looked at in terms of the five sheets, the Panchakosha. So how the Panchakosha come about when Atma is the reality, and how to come to the Atma Swarupa as mentioned in Appalapattu. That is what is to be covered in verse 16. Verse 15 is on how that pure, impeccable, pure Spatika Atma, how has it become, or how it appears as the Panchakoshas. And in the 16th verse, how the Panchakoshas are dealt with if one is to come to the Atma Swarupa. So let us take the 15th verse. கோஷங்கள் ஐந்து முதற் கூட்டுறவால் ஆன்மாவும் மாசில்லதே ஆயினுமோ அம்மையனே ரே சருவும் நீலப்படாதி கலப்பால் நிர்மலமாம் ஸ்படிகம் போலவே ஒட்டா பொருளாகும். நீலப்படாதி கலப்பால் நிர்மலஸ்மாம் ஸ்படிகம் போலவே ஒட்டா பொருளாகும். If we take that first, the metaphor to be seen first, how Spatika, when we look up in the Google, which is what I did, is a crystalline stone, which, as the very word crystal indicates, it is clear. There is no color to the Spatika. But when kept in the backdrop of a colored vastra, a blue color or red color or orange color vastra, then to someone standing on this side of the Spatika, it appears as though the Spatika itself is of that color. So what is important here in this metaphor is to understand that the Atma Swarupa has not become the Panchakoshas. How it appears is what is taken up. What we have to understand is that the more subtler we are able to understand the situation, the more directly and easily we can cross over the Stula. What do I mean by that? See, why the reference to Spatika and color is given, and how the Panchakoshas, which we will go into, are merely like that Vastra, he is saying. What the Acharya is saying is that the Panchakoshas are like the Vastra, and when the Spatika Atma, it is by the side of that or identifies with that, then it appears to have taken that form, he says. So why such importance from becoming to appearance? Because becoming is something very solid, like it brings the situation into the time and space. Whereas appearance is just vivarta is a projection. So it can be withdrawn. Why is it so important to understand this difference? My mother-in-law and I, we were seeing a movie. For her, looking at Tamil Pattimandapam and movies and all, they bring her back the memories, and she's able to identify with most of the things there. So there is a lot of life with which we can do some sadhana. We were seeing a movie where one particular aspect appealed to me very much, where there is a poor person, very poor person, who has to get his sister married off. He has to get his sister married, and the alliance sought by the sister is one of a very rich person, comparatively richer person. And when this boy goes on his own, being the elder brother, he is shooed off. But then he goes back to another relationship where he is related to such a rich person. He is incomparably more richer than the one to whom the boy had approached. And the richer person comes to know of the situation and sends his lawyer, not even he doesn't go, he sends his assistant to the person who had rejected this boy because of their status. And immediately that person who had rejected this family runs to their house and seeks the alliance, because the order has come from someone who is incredibly more powerful than him. He was very much more powerful than the boy. Now that is the Guru's sthiti. When we are having Bhagavan as our guide, and the Atma Swarupa is taught to be within us, then that whole area of becoming, which was appearing to be so solid, when am I going to solve this problem? When is that going to come? When at all will this situation become better? These are the questions we ask. When we will become better? But that incredibly rich being is saying, there is no becoming at all. There is only a drishya. It is only an appearance. It's only an appearance that you have to become something and then you will be happy. Whereas it is only like this Spatika being shaded by a drape, colored drape, and appearing as though it has become of that color. It has not become of that color. It is merely an appearance. What is the difference between this appearance and becoming? It is like that very rich man coming to our aid to protect us from this person. Bhagavan is the highest power that can ever be sought help of. He is coming to our aid. We are having him on our side. So what he is doing, that whole area, don't think it is there. Don't think that the Atma Swarupa has become the world. It is merely an appearance. So that is where this metaphor of the Spatika man appearance to have been colored is very helpful, that the Panchakoshas which we have is a mere appearance. Let me bring scientific support to this, if I am permitted, that slowly science has also come to understanding that this area of becoming is not there, is not real. They are not yet embarking on that point, but they are there or thereabouts. And in fact, this particular point which I am going to present as to appearance and becoming, we have actually discussed this about 10 years back when we were meditating on a talk by a Vedantin in Ramakrishna Ashram about how it takes the stars which we see are merely an appearance. The stars are really not there. What do I mean? The stars are really not there. It's very interesting that Vedantin had said like that, and we had made our own deductions from that. That's about 10 years back. But now, physics has come to that point where they are agreeing on that point that there may not be any real becoming. What we call as time and changes in time may be mere appearances in consciousness. What have they found? I will try to go through it slowly so that we get a feel of how much the Acharya has given us. Like that incredible rich man being behind that poor man, and all that riches and power is available to him. Acharya is coming to our aid. There is a video by the physicist Rivoli, which I had forwarded earlier, which is actually a scientific investigation into this area, but I am taking only the relevant portion and presenting it in the way he has presented. See, it takes 8 minutes for the sunlight to come from the sun to earth. So, at the speed of light, light is traveling at the speed of light. Nearly 3 lakhs kilometers per second or so it is traveling, and it takes 8 minutes. So that many lakh kilometers is there. So 8 into 60 into 3 lakhs. That many kilometers sun is away from earth. It takes 8 minutes from there. So what we see, the important point is, do we see the sun as it is now? Because only if you can see it as it is now, it is true. If it is in the past, it is not true. It's a false appearance. That's the significant point, that we are seeing sun as it was 8 minutes ago. To put it in perspective, some of the stars are so far away that it takes 8, 10, 12 billion years for the light from there to come. Just as the star sun took 8 minutes to send its light to us, the light from some of the stars in cosmos takes about 8, 10, 5, so many billion years. So the distance itself is measured as so many light years, because the light takes that many years to come. That's an astronomical measure of distance, light years. But that means that we are seeing that star as it was 5 billion years ago, 8 billion years ago. What the Ramakrishna Ashram presenter, the scientist in Ramakrishna Ashram in the 70s, the talk was given, I think I had a pamphlet of it. He says that the star itself might be dead and gone. The star itself might have collapsed and might be gone. But to our eyes, it appears as though it is there, because what we are seeing is what it was 5 billion years ago. So similarly, the light from Jupiter, or if somebody in Jupiter we see, it is 4 hours away at some point in the, let's say, the orbit around the sun. It's about 4 hours away. That's the distance. Now, the interesting point comes now, that what the scientists have found is that now we feel we are all in the present moment, isn't it? That each of us are in one now, at least in India, we are all in one now moment. What they have found is that there is no such now moment. There is no such now moment. There is a now moment for me, and if somebody is 4 feet away, there is a now moment for them. Why is it so? It is so because the same light takes some time, some nanoseconds, to go and reveal that body to me. So what do we come upon? We come upon the fact that whenever I see another person as a body, as a stula sharira, which is one of the koshas which we are going to see, I am seeing only that person what he was some nanoseconds ago. I am not seeing that person as that person is now. Now, when I am seeing that person and that person is seeing me, that is, I am seeing that person, I am also seeing that that person is seeing me. The interesting point is, when I am seeing him, I am in the present and his body is in the past. But when I see him observing my body, he is in the present and I am, as a body, I am in the past. Therefore, when I am aware of this process and turn inward, like Bhagavan says, turn inward, then that whole area of time, the bubble, it collapses. That is, I understand that I can see him only as he is in the past and he can see me only in the past. Then I turn inward because Bhagavan says inward, inside is the truth of the present moment. Then that whole sensory area, it gets collapsed. That is what is said in Gita as Indriyani Paranyahu, Indriyebhya Parammanah, Manasastu Parabuddhi, Yo Buddhe Paratastu Saha. That is, the Indriyas, the awareness going through the Indriyas are more powerful than the entire cosmos. Because that entire time, it gets collapsed when my awareness understands whatever I see, I can see only as they are in the past. If I want to see them in the present, I have to see them inside. Now, up to this, physics has come that the entire sensory area time is only an appearance. If the consciousness is aware of its superiority, of its richness, of its being associated with the source, then it won't make an issue of I have to reach point B in the sensory world to be happy. When I was in point C, sometime back, I was happier. No, in that area, there is nothing called as happiness because it is all in the scripted area. It's all in the past. So to see real happiness, turn inward, he says. Bhagavan says, turn inside. We had taken the enquiry further. In our 10 years back enquiry, we had not stopped there. We had understood that the sensory world can be crossed. Indriyani Paranyahu, Indriyabhyah Parammanaha. By observing thoughts, I can cross that entire sensory world. For instance, my daughter as a thought is closer to me than my daughter as a sensory body. Bhagavan as a thought is closer to me than Bhagavan as a sensory body. You can make it very easily understandable. When a person comes to Bhagavan and says that since Krishna is no more, Krishna is his guru. Since Krishna is no more, I want a living guru. And Bhagavan says that if you take Krishna to be the body which lived 5,000 years ago, then your living guru will also pass away shortly. Therefore, Sri Krishna is not that sensory appearance. I am using the word appearance, not happening. It was a sensory appearance that took place. That is not Sri Krishna's reality. Sri Krishna is more real as a thought because you can do dhyana. You can do dhyana with Ramanama because they are called as Taraka mantras. But then we had done one investigation 10 years back that if seeing in the sensory world took a light and some time and I can see only scripted matter. I can see only scripted matter means I can see only what was some time back. I can see you as you were. I can never see you as you are. In fact, if I take myself to be the body, I cannot see myself as I am. I can only see myself as I was. Now, having understood that, we had taken it to the thought area. That even in the thought area, even in the mind, that's why Manasastu Parabuddhi, the Buddhi is doing this reasoning. That if that is so in the sensory area, the same logic must be applicable in the thought area also. That when I see a thought, again, some form of light, not the sthula light of the sun, but the consciousness light has to go reveal that thought and get back to me. So some time is spent. Therefore, I can see that thought only as it was, not as it is. Never. Any thought I observe is only as it was some time ago and not as it is. Point number one. Point number two, what is the nature of time in thought? Is it greater or is it smaller than the time in the sensory world? Obviously, when we say that Sri Krishna is more real in thought, Bhagavan is more real in thought than the sensory world, the time in thought is much more expansive and much more subtler than the time in the sensory world. So what? But the distance is there, but of what nature is that distance? It is more farther and more subtler than the sensory one which we have taken up. That means there is a gap between me and the object. and I can see that object only as it was. What it means to actually see that object as it is only to see it as the Atma Swarupa. All the objects you see are scripted or as they were, not as they are. If one wants to see as they are, the only way, logically speaking, still these are in Vedantic terms, they are not in scientific terms. We left science the moment the time bubble was burst. Up to that, they have come. But then when we take the inquiry further, why Bhagavan and Acharya are insisting on Atma bodham? Because the reality of the thoughts you see, the reality of the sensory objects you see, in the now can only be observed as the self. The other things are all present inside the self. And when you want to see them, they are all your projections and no other. If you want anything to be seen as it is now, one has to come to the Atma Swarupa. So that is the PTK, that is the build-up we can have as to why it is an appearance and not a becoming. The world is not what the Brahman has become. The world is merely what the Brahman appears to be. Therefore, it becomes easier to come to the truth. When we understand that we are one with the richest, strongest person being as our support. So he is helping us cross all those people who are seeming to be obstructions to us. They are all thrown apart, and in comparison to this infinite, they all fall away. Time, space, the things that have become and that threaten that we are not that, all those obstructions fall away. And that is the indication given in this verse that Nirmalapam Spatikam Polave Otta Purula. How this Spatika never got entangled with the colored drape. The Atma never got entangled with the Panchakoshas. Koshangal Aidu Mudal Kuturaval Anmavum Masilade Ayinum. Though it is pure and it is like Spatika, Ammayane Esaruvum, that they, like the Panchakoshas, it appears, though it is by itself, there is no mixture, it has not become. In what nature it is comparable? It is comparable to this Spatika, looking like having taken up the color which is behind it. Now, what are the Panchakoshas? We can see now. If there is any question up to that point, how Bhagavan reduces the Stula, see the important thing is most of our discussions are in Stula time. That we feel that hereafter I will not do that. Tomorrow when they speak, I will act like this. All these things are taking the becomings to be real, but they are mere appearances. The reality comes only in the Swarupa. What do we have to do when we are related or the consciousness has to participate in time? Then we don't look for peace or happiness in that area. Those things are done with the identification with the Atma Swarupa is what we have to say. What are these Panchakoshas? We have seen them in Ulladanarpadu, but then since we are in that verse now, it is better to do a recap. And Kanakamal compares how the Shariratraya and Panchakoshas are connected. That the Shariratraya is Stula Sharira, is the Annamaya Kosha here, is the residue of the food stuff, the Stula Sharira that is there here. Then the Pranamaya Kosha, Manomaya Kosha and Vijnanamaya Kosha, these three put together is the Sukshma Sharira. And the Sukshma Sharira is given lot of importance because that is the bridge between, we have seen that, it is the bridge between the Stula Sharira and the Ajnana or the Anandamaya Kosha. The Sukshma Sharira is the bridge between Stula Sharira and the Anandamaya Kosha or the Karana Sharira. Now, what are these Pranamaya Kosha. Pranamaya Kosha is made of the Pancha Pranas, the 5 types of pranas that we have inside, and the Karmendriyas. Because the pranas, they give the energy required for the Karmendriyas. Then, what is the Manomaya Kosha? It is the Jnanendriyas, the Chakshuradi Jnanendriyas plus Manas. So, it is the data received. Now, the analysis of the data as to cause effect, as to right wrong, all those happen in the Buddhi. So, that is how the order is given in the Gita, that Indriyani Paranyahu. Indriyas are more powerful than the world. They can transcend the world. Indriyabhyah param manaha. The manas is greater than the indriyas. Manasastu para buddhi. The buddhi which can reason out, based on which you will select the data you want to pick up in the mind. So the buddhi is greater than, subtler than the manas. Yo buddhe paratastu sa. When you are self-aware, when the Atma Swarupa is self-aware, it has transcended even the intellect. And when it is not self-aware, it is full of the Anandamaya Kosha, or the last Kosha that separates us from Jnana, where we go to rest in deep sleep. So these are the Pancha Koshas and the connection with the Shariratraya. Once again, as Kanakamal says, the Shariratraya is Stula, Sukshma and Karana. The Pancha Koshas, the 5 sheets, one subtler than the other and one permeating the other, are Annamaya, same as the Stula Sharira. Pranamaya, Manomaya, Vijnanamaya put together are the Sukshma Sharira. And Anandamaya Kosha is the same as the Karana Sharira. Why it is called Anandamaya Kosha? There, the ego gets absorbed in the nescience that underlies the whole creation. And since it loses all the differences, since it loses all sense of differences, but still is not conscious, there is happiness, but no awareness. Now, unless happiness is accompanied by awareness, we don't say somebody is happy, isn't it? See, if somebody is having everything which we say he should have to be happy, but he is not aware of it, then he is not really happy, isn't it? Therefore, there in deep sleep or in the Anandamaya Kosha, there is happiness, but there is no awareness. So only when you come out of that, even in dhyana, one may enter that, sometimes unknowingly, and one may feel happy. But you will realize that you were happy only when you come out of that. So that is called the Anandamaya Kosha or the Karana Sharira. And none of this is a real change. It is only an appearance. So the transcending them should be with a light touch. How you will transcend a cinema show when you come out. A cinema show you have gone, in the dark room, it appears to be real. But once the light comes on, even when some last scenes are going on, the projector guy may get, he may be in a hurry to go somewhere, so he may switch on the lights in the theater. So even when the film last part is going on, last few scenes are going on, if it has not been ended very nicely, they might put on the lights. And as soon as the lights come, you understand those figures, they merge into the light. You understand that that's mere appearance. In fact, you would have understood even earlier, but it is very clear. Similarly here, when that light of Atma Swarupa comes, you understand that the Atma never really became the world. In fact, the funniest part is the Stula we take to be real, but the scientists have already come up to negating that. Not exactly that, but they have come up to that point. But the inner journeys they have not investigated. But Acharya and Bhagavan have investigated into the even more powerful veils. Why even more powerful? Because they are this sukshma and very difficult to see that we are trapped. I used to share that for the modern day intellectual, it is very difficult to see that he is trapped by his own thoughts, because thoughts are so abstract. that they bring so much happiness. Somebody making a pun in English is so happy because there is a release of energy in that abstract area. Why the happiness is there is a release. The one thing you thought the meaning of the word is in one direction, but then the comedian comes and suddenly injects that was not the meaning intended. This was. So there is a freedom from that. There is a freedom of energy from that trap. There is a joy which we immediately laugh at the pun. But we mistake that to be real happiness. That the shifting, the easy way in which the consciousness shifts in the abstract thoughts, we take that to be happiness. But then that is also a kosha. It is the Vijnanamaya kosha which we have to transcend. And the transcending is what is taken up in the next verse. But in the 15th verse, the key point to note is that none of them is a becoming of the Brahman. The Brahman has not become any of that. They are mere appearances. So the 16th verse, how to extract the Brahman or the Atma Swarupa out of this? Udal Pancha Kosha Umiyadi Odul Sudar Parisuddha Anmavai Didamaha Uttiinal Kutti ஒழித்து அவற்றை அரிசி ஒத்தறிய வேண்டும் உணர்வுள்ளே. We can directly go to the Appalapattu. In Appalapattu, what Bhagavan says, that is what is meant here. How from the paddy the husk is removed and thrown away, and how the rice is separated and taken. That is how we have to remove the Panchakoshas. Before that, one interesting thing about the intellect again. How the intellect can be a husk which we get frustrated about. And this is, I think it is Swami Natanananda. It could be somebody else. He is listening to a few scholars who are discussing Vedanta with Bhagavan. And the discussions are very abstract. And Bhagavan is participating with them. Totally discussing, answering the questions they are putting. And that exchange is going on. More and more that exchange is going on. This person is getting depressed. And finally he leans against the wall and is totally energyless. And the moment those scholars get up and go away, Bhagavan comes to his rescue and says, why are you so deflated? And he says, none of the topics you were discussing, Bhagavan, with them could I understand to any extent. Now, when am I going to understand, to grasp them, to understand them, and then practice? First, I have to concentrate on what is said. I have to understand, and then I have to put it to practice. When is this going to happen? And Bhagavan says, whatever was being discussed is only chaff, is only husk. It is not the paddy at all. And of course, he gives the assurance to the devotee. Haven't I called you here? Is the interview selection done by the candidate, or is it done by the person who has called the interview? Obviously, it's the interviewer who has selected. So it is Bhagavan who has picked each one of us to be devotees. There is no other way it is possible to a devotee. That if a devotee looks back, there is no way he could have chosen to come to Bhagavan. And clear intercession is by the Shakti, is by Bhagavan only. That once I have selected you to come here, will you be left in any way? You stand assured that you will see the way through to the self. Why are you disappointed? Immediately the shoulders are squared. But the key point there is, Bhagavan says, all that discussion was chaff. All that is required because they have got trapped in valuation of that chaff, in valuation of this is what Sri Krishna says. The journey of Ramanath Brahmachari, the journey of Mudaliyar Party, the journey of Lakshmi the cow, we understand how the intellectual chaff is overcome. that when Sri Krishna says in chapter 10 that all you have to do is have faith in me. If you are completely full of faith, if you have full of faith, initially faith may be a small umbrella, but then it includes your family, it includes your organization, it includes all kinds of worries, it includes the whole creation. When you are full of bhakti and whatever conversation you are having only of me. Nothing else. See, when everything is covered by bhakti to Krishna or the Supreme Being, to me it's Bhagavan. There was a journey with Akka to Tiruvannamalai. We had to return the same day or the next day, I don't remember. But in the entire journey, car journey from here, I think Ashwini Ma was also there. The entire 4 hours, 4.5 hours, we have been just talking of Bhagavan and coming full of happiness, no energy loss. On our way back, the driver, who is a friend of ours for long years, he said to Akka, you take some rest. This may not be good for your health. But there was no let up. The rest of the journey was also spent in that talking of Bhagavan and his devotees. When the mind is full of that, Sri Krishna says, I give them Bhakti Yoga. I the Atma Swarupa, I allow their buddhi to have humbleness and come and join me, have yoga with me. So the how the bhaktas, which we are sharing and promoting through various activities of the Ramana Maharishi Center, the faith that is being made pakka, and unless that is understood, the jnana is never complete. Now that covers all the koshas, and you are surrendered, and the chaff of the intellect is now lit up by the light of the Atma Swarupa. That is the other journey we have to understand, the journey of faith, and how easily those bhaktas, they overcome. When Ramanath Brahmachari is lifted by a very strong man by the collar, and the strong man is in such anger, he is asking, do you know who I am? And that bhakta has such calmness of intellect that he says, sir, to know that only, to know who we are, that is why we have come here, haven't we? Ramanath Brahmachari was very diminutive, just 4 feet or 4.5 feet. That man was supposed to be a big man. In Venkateshji's words, whenever he sees somebody a bit overweight like me, he will say, oh, Nandakumar is a big man. Like that, a big man lifted him up, but his intellect is so clear in that moment of stress also that Ramanath Brahmachari says, like that. So how the bhaktas, they come, they cross the koshas, they are allowed to cross the chaff of the intellect by their surrender itself, by the Supreme Being itself. Now, that is what is mentioned here. There is a verse in chapter 5, which after the 2 verses of faith, Bhagavan has selected and put in the Bhagavad Gita Sara. There are 2 verses on how the surrendered devotee crosses the intellect. But this verse taken from chapter 5, if I remember, it must be verse 16 or 17, I'm not sure. That verse is about how with enquiry you can cross the sheets. That the same jnana, when a person does enquiry and crosses the 5 sheets, then also that devotee himself shines self-luminously as the Atma Swarupa, says Bhagavad Gita. That what was done through surrender and was offered by the Supreme can be done through the crossing of the sheets by enquiry and dropping. And that is what is mentioned in this verse. In this verse where the Panchakoshas have to be crossed by the pounding of the Udar Panchakosha Umiyadi Ottul Shudar Parishuddha Anmavai Didamam Uttina. Utti is from the Shastras and from Guru Mukhena. What sadhana we have got? By consistently practicing that, we can free ourselves of this appearance. What is this appearance? The appearance that the Atma has become the 5 koshas. The 5 koshas are not merely 5 koshas. When we see through the 5 koshas, various worlds appear. We see the Stula Loka when we see through the Stula Indriyas. It is said that there are 14 lokas in some accounts. When we were preparing for a seminar, we were looking into some Dvaitic accounts. And in Dvaitic accounts of Jnana, they say there are 256 worlds made up of this Shariratraya or Panchakoshas. That the combination of them, including the Turiya, when you put as a combination, then you can have so many permutations and combinations. If you see through those, then those worlds, they appear. There are 256 worlds, some say. There is 14 worlds, some say. And the scientists have crossed the Stula Sharira now. But the Acharyas have crossed all the worlds for us and have said they are mere appearances. Never go to any of the appearance, but ask for whom is this thought. Because thought is the bridge that connects the Stula and the Karana. We have discussed this in the last session, but let us put some light on that. How is it that Atma Vichara helps us cross the Shariratraya, the Panchakoshas? Because without the thought, the Stula Sharira is not there, the Stula Loka is not there. So when you gradually withdraw from thought, you will withdraw from the Stula Sharira and Stula Loka. Now what happens to Karana Sharira? The conscious Jiva can never directly attack the Karana Sharira. It is like Vali. Whenever you think about it, it takes more power from you. How to attack that? Bhagavan teaches, go and wait there. Go and wait. From the Karana Sharira, suppose the I thought is arising, you go and wait there. You ask from where I am arising. So any pending thoughts in Karana Sharira will rise up when you put the light of attention there. When a thought arises, if you pursue it, you will go into the Sukshma Sharira, or if you use the Indriyas, you will come into the Stula Sharira. But if you put enquiry, for whom is this thought? You are putting heat on the Karana Sharira. And if there are pending thoughts, the Vasanas will rise up as thoughts. You can drop them and you can hold the I thought again. That way, the Karana Sharira is also crossed using self-enquiry. So the tool given to us to remove the chaff, to remove the Panchakoshas. What is the chaff? Not only the intellect, but all the 5 koshas are mere chaff. How to overcome that? Bhagavan says, in Appalapati he says, Tanalla Ainkosa Kshetramidilvala Tanenum Manamam Danya Ulundai Nanaran Jnana Vichara Tirigayam Nanalla Endre Udaitu Pudithu. How does the perception of 5 koshas come? The Stula Sharira is always supported by some thoughts. We have discussed when we are walking in the park, we can always ask, who is walking? When we come to the Thursday, sometimes when the puja offering is not here, it was suggested we can always inquire who is listening. When we do who is listening, we are going from the Stula Sharira to the Atma Swarupa. Now, I have had a very good digestion for the last few days, let us say. When I keep thinking, oh, what is it that I ate? What were the fruits I took? What was the food? I should try and repeat it. I am in the Pranamaya Kosha, because that is what helps in the area of, let us say, the inner movement of stuff. Now, for whom is this thought? For whom is this thought of those are happening well? Somebody chants Om for a long time, or somebody runs the marathon better. I feel I am left behind. My own prana is not of that nature. But for whom is this thought? That is a mere appearance that is crossed by beating that paddy and removing the chaff. For whom is this thought? To me. Who am I? We come to the rice. So from Prana Sharira, we draw. From Manomaya, through the Jnanendriyas and through the Manas itself, we could have objective thought without any reasoning coming into it. That also is crossed by self-enquiry. Any reasoning based thought, oh, that was a good friend. It was he who has put me through meditation class. When we get that thought, immediately the anxiety is to take up the phone and call him and thank him. But then what is Bhagavan and The Acharya is saying, better than that is to inquire, who is it that thinks so and so put me in meditation class? Me. Who am I? Is better than thanking him on phone. Why? Because he is not the Sthula Sharira, he is not the Sukshma Sharira, he is the Atma Swarupa. To abide in this self is the best gratitude you can give to anybody. What is the good thought you want to express? Let us say you want to express a good thought of thanks to someone. What is the best way of thanking someone? To understand that their appearance is mere chaff, their body and whatever has happened in their lives is all only chaff. They are the real Atma Swarupa. So when you are abiding in the Atma Swarupa, you are seeing everybody simultaneously. And you are one with your richest friend. You are one with your most powerful friend. Who is that? You are one with Bhagavan. Now, what more can we ask? When a rich man, superlatively rich, can rid those problems in a trice, when he goes and talks to somebody or sends somebody, then there is fear on that part and they do. How much more powerful should be the Atma Swarupa? It can dissolve that whole areas. It can dissolve those appearances. What better friend than Bhagavan can we ask for? What better place to be than in the self? So let us practice Atma Uchara for the next few minutes till 8 o'clock, when we, as usual, can listen to Akka. Revatima, you can set the time for us. Okay. Namo Ramana. Namo Ramana.
Namo Ramana. Namo Ramana. Prostrations to Ramana. Shining is the self in all beings. By the immense grace of the self manifest as Ramana, we are meditating on the verses of the Anma bodham, where the self alone is the subject, the self alone is important. And as Bhagavan says in Ramana Gita, Bhagavan says, Bhagavan is asked by Kashni, for whom is this enquiry? Bhagavan says, for one whose attachment to the body is waning, for one whose interest is not there in objects. So similarly, the Atma bodham also is for one, it is those people are being addressed. Those of us are being addressed, or that part of our mind, or that is being thrown light upon, which says, yes, this is not important. It is a myth. To begin with itself, the world is a myth. Other things are not important. Jnana alone is important. Nothing else can give you that. Karma cannot lead you over there. So we've been taken through all that. And now we are being told that we don't have to worry actually, because the pure nature is never sullied. It is only the impurity, the appearance, it is only that, as Nandakumar said, it's an appearance. It has no reality. The color in the crystal has no reality. The crystal is ever pure. I must have shared this example earlier also, but it's a beautiful example given by a child actually. We had these essay writing competitions for children, and somewhere they were talking about Bhagavan's teachings. The child was trying to say, talking about the pure mind and the impure mind, and the child gave the example of the Ganges. She said, see, the Ganges, lot of talk is there about purifying the Ganges. But what does one have to do to purify the Ganges? Stop putting the impurity into it. There, in that case at least, impurity has got into Ganges. It has got into the water. And one must remove it, or one must stop putting the impurity inside. But here, we are brought this knowledge that it is never touched by it at all. There is no impurity in the self at any point of time. When we were given the example of the ornaments of gold, we understood that gold never becomes an ornament. Although we say, this is a golden bangle, this is a golden necklace, the gold in the bangle has not become a bangle. The gold in the necklace has not become a necklace. It remains only as gold. The bangle is an appearance on the gold, superimposition on the gold. The necklace is a superimposition on the gold. So, it is always pure. And what is the implication of this? And what is the implication of the Panchabhuta, the understanding that the Sharira is the Panchabhuta? What is the implication? We were told today, which Nandakumar ji has shared earlier, also a very beautiful instance of seeing things which are only in the past. Everything is already in the past. What I am seeing now is already dead and gone. Other than the self, there is nothing which is there in the present. Even when I think I am thinking about the present, I am actually only thinking about the past, because there is a space between the thought, between one thought and the other, between the knowledge of the object and the object. So there is that space. So there is a time lag. Actually, this is very physically also seen when the acoustics expert comes to look at the positioning of the speakers and all in an auditorium, the first thing they tell us is, in an auditorium, if we keep 3 pairs of speakers, one in the front, one in the middle, one near the balcony, they say that there will be a delay. So, what they do is they physically adjust the timing of the sound coming to that particular speaker so that one does not hear a delay. So this is the fact is there is a delay. The fact is there is a delay. If you are 5 feet away from the earlier speaker, what you will only hear it later. You will only hear it delayed. And because you are in a small space, you will hear that and you will hear this, and probably you will hear the one which is going to come behind you. So there will be a lot of multiple sounds will be coming in. The example which we heard is about the light. But sound is also like that. Every object that we experience is only from the past. So how does it have an implication on our sadhana, on the inquiry? That first of all, thought also, this understanding has been applied to thought also. Nandakumar said thought is also from the past. Every thought is from the past. In multiple ways it's from the past. Because one is that there is a time lag. Secondly, every thought is dependent only on memory. If I have no memory, there cannot be any thought, which happens in deep sleep, of course. But even otherwise, when I lose out memory, if there is a complete blanking of memory, there cannot be any thought. Every thought is based only on this identification that I am so and so, I am Sharada, and that is only a Sthula Sharira. And Bhagavan asks us to go inside. And what happens when we go inside? That which is inside, or that which is the self, has never been bound to the Sthula Sharira. That means it is not bound at this moment also. It is not like I am sitting inside a cage. Because the self, of course, Bhagavan says in Ekant Panchakam, the self is not inside the body and everything else is inside the self. But even if we say, oh, inside I am feeling my sense of I, that sense of I is not bound in any way, is not touched in any way, is not colored in any way, is not influenced in any way by the gross body or the subtle body. And Nandakumarji, one of the important points which was reiterated for us today was that we should cross these 2 bodies through self-inquiry, through the questioning, for whom, who am I, for whom is this experience of a gross body, for whom is this experience of the mind. So we cross it. We're asking that and we're asking, who am I? And then Nandakumarji told us that we have to wait. In Muruganar Swami's poem, the very first Deshika Padigam, the Hindi translation of it, I do not know what the words are, or I do not readily recollect the words in Tamil, but I always like these words in Hindi, where Muruganar Swami says, Dwar tumhare aakar guruvar, kab se khada pratiksha karta. I come to your doorstep and I am waiting. For a long time I am waiting. So, to wait is important. Says Nandakumarji to us, pointing out Bhagavan's teachings, we should wait at the doorstep. I have come to your doorstep and I am waiting. So, that waiting is there. Till first section is questioning. That is dynamic, the sadhana. The questioning, for whom is this thought? It is for me. Who am I? This is the dynamic part of sadhana. But when this has been crossed, one gets into a passive part of the sadhana, where one should not do anything, one should not ask for anything, but simply wait. Now, the simply waiting also, today it was brought home to us, that itself may give us some kind of peace, because we are so used to agitation, we are so used to activity, that even a small cessation from activity will give us a sense of calm, like we get in deep sleep. But we should not confuse this with the silence of the self. So we should get back, even if we apparently have some kind of a lull, some kind of a quietude, we should question that also and get to the self. So whenever we experience anything, whenever we experience any object, we must remember it is like the color in the crystal ball. The experience of the object is not our own nature. This is not my nature. This is not my nature. The experience of thought, whenever we experience a thought, Bhagavan says all experiences are thoughts. So, whenever we experience a thought, we get intermingled with it like the color in the crystal. When there is anger, we get intermingled with our anger. We believe that, we say, I am angry. I become anger myself. I am sad. I'm happy. I become all those emotions. I become all those thoughts. Of course, anger, sorrow, all these are emotions. We can become very emotional even about abstract things. People can be very emotional about a particular way in which they can solve a mathematical problem or a particular route to be taken. So anything. But we get so identified with that. We completely become one with our experiences. Here Bhagavan is saying, stand back, understand, know that those experiences are not touching you in any way. No matter how many thoughts arise, they do not touch you. No matter what kind of thoughts arise, they do not touch you. Thought does not touch you. The impurity does not touch you. The color, the differences, they do not touch you. It is the crystal, the mind is absolutely pure, it is clear. It is not touched by any of these objects. But when we become intermingled through our attention, then it appears as if all that is I myself. My sorrow, my joy, my wonderment, everything is experienced as I. Like we see the crystal is red. Like that it becomes experienced as I. So Bhagavan says that we should be vigilant in every moment. Even before thought arises, because once it has arisen, it leads to many, many, many more thoughts. Every thought leads to more thoughts. But if we cut back, if we understand, oh, this is only a thought, this is only like the coloring of the crystal ball, it is not my real nature, then who am I? So whenever we are able to keep getting back, that is, Bhagavan says, it's like pounding with a vessel, then the I thought will slowly get dissolved and merge in the source. So from different perspectives, with different examples, we are actually being cajoled to take up the inquiry and abide as the self. Om Namo Bhagavate Sri Rama.